Hi, everyone. We just thought we'd hit the record button here. Sue, I'm sorry. What was it you were saying?
Well, I was just talking about the idea that, when an idea is just being born, when it's just sort of coming alive, lots of times we can talk about it with different people and they get excited when they're talking about it, but then they fold back into their own lives and until that idea starts to gain traction and momentum, a lot of times my experience has been people will not necessarily jump on board. So I believe so deeply and profoundly in what we're talking about tonight, which is the idea of Bayfield becoming a a spiritual tourism mecca, if you will,
Mm.
a space where people can come and rejuvenate and renew, a soulful place, a place that's, I mean, everything is here, right? The lake is here, Lady Huron is here, and it's well established. But I think what we're talking about tonight, primarily, and we can get more into it, is the idea of helping to support the Bayfield community, which I have come to love and appreciate so deeply. It's been a transformative and healing place for me to help the Bayfield community to during the shoulder season to help to create um, a new, if I might say, new industry, a new tourism industry to help the Bayfield community, but also to invite people into the community who will be able to um, experience the soulful connection, nature, the lake, all of the wonderful things, right? The restorative feeling that it has here. So,
Now, I wonder how much of that is like creating it or just that maybe it already exists. We already see quite a few practitioners here. Is it more about naming it or like how much are we doing? How much are we depending on the energy that's already here and whatever is emerging, and how much do we actually get involved as human beings?
yeah, I think a lot of it goes to naming it, doesn't it? If we even look at Sedona as an example, as our sort of that was sort of what started the conversation a short, what, a month or two ago. And because I think most people can understand Sedona quickly. We can understand that it's a place of the energy is powerful there, lots of spiritually minded people gather there. It's a metaphysical hotspot. So when we think about, I mean, Sedona became Sedona for a lot of different reasons, but because it was named and identified to be what it is, then people started to want to share in that, and it grew and grew and grew. More practitioners, came to the area, and then suddenly you're expanding what's already there. In terms of the tourism, in terms of the piece of it that Bayfield already has, where we know it already has all of the established ingredients necessary for tourism to thrive. However, the shoulder season, from what I understand, remains a gap that could be filled in a little bit. And as well, we know that more people are seeking out meaningful experiences,
Mhm.
particularly post COVID. Lots of people are looking for more soulful experiences as opposed to consumer experiences. So I think that the literature we've looked at certainly supports the idea of spiritual tourism being something that is more up and coming. And of course, there's like the well-established spiritual tourism of the retreats to, like Mecca or Stonehenge, or like globally, those places all over the world, even Sedona. But I think that between what, in the article that you put together for us about the energetic spiritual significance of the river flats, what that
Yeah.
means
And
is
just, I
as
wanted to pop in here too, and
yeah,
just the synchronicity or the timing, how those river flats are being developed, like right now, right?
right
And
now.
so it's exciting that that's going to be named and that there will be plaques, I do believe, interpretive plaques to actually speak to that history of where it was a crossing, and where indigenous peoples met in peaceful times, I believe.
Yes,
I don't want to speak to that story that I don't know very well, but it just adds to the sacredness of this area.
absolutely. And I think, I think that there's a great deal of merit for the community to weave together what's established from a tourism perspective already, travel, with the indigenous history that is so powerful and magical. This area is very, very
Mhm,
powerful, energetically, we know that.
mhm,
So to be able to name it, to be able to bring it together in such a way that we can provide offerings to people, to to um, to continue to steward the land, if you will, in a respectful way for everyone involved. I think that when we talk about spiritual tourism, we're we tend to talk about, I think you refer to it as silent, not silent retreat, but it's sort of quiet. What did you say? You know what I mean?
it was many things, wasn't it?
It was many, many things. But I think the bottom line is that we want to continue um, to honor what the Bayfield residents have already contributed to this area.
And I think that's huge, right? Because it wouldn't take much for just the wrong people or just the volume of people, perhaps, just coming through here and ruining some of those trails that are developed by volunteers. And I mean, the flats, it's all local money that's going into that project. It's a $70,000 project, and it's pretty significant. I think it was a few years back when that land was also purchased. So, um, yeah, it's about many things in naming this. Protection in a different kind of way, not energetically, because the earth will always have means of protecting herself, but yeah. And also as an altar to Lady Huron. I think this space is just Pioneer Park is such a gem, also volunteer, right? Also privately owned. And just this whole idea of that being a space from which we can take in and honor the Great Lake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think from our conversations, certainly you are very connected, much more than I am at this point, with a lot of the practitioners, the healing and
Mm,
wellness practitioners in the area. And
mhm,
so I think it would be a great service to that community to start to connect, perhaps, and perhaps they are already connected. Although it does seem like that we could, perhaps introduce a little bit more community in that area as well. Perhaps we look at, we talked a little bit about a some kind of directory or something like that, because there
mm,
are, you know, to just be able to quickly reference and find out if you want to have somebody who's anything from
mhm.
Reiki to osteopathic to crystal bull,
Yoga.
the whole thing, yoga,
Yeah.
meditation, all the way from, potentially Sarnia to Godrich, right? Like, I mean, the whole thing. And to just identify this as what it is a growing area that is drawing more people who are oriented towards wellness, holistic, spirituality, all of those tenets. So um, I think that it's a really good time for us to take a look at this.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm looking at the agenda here, and of course we're allowing this to all go just organically, which is beautiful. And it feels to me like we've already done our number 4 on our little list here, Sue. having our little bit of a discussion about it, which is lovely. I just wondered if you wanted to read that poem, because I think it really it speaks to how we can work together as an expanding community. I already have the vision of the ripples, you know, when we throw the stone in the water and all the ripples going outward. And we're throwing that stone in there, and this will ripple out to many different people in many different ways, touch them in many different ways. But it's important that we really are able to embrace all the differences, and hopefully we can come together with one common vision of I can't help but think of protection and all those stones of protection that I have in my shop. So yeah.
I would love to read the poem. So this poem is written by Margaret Wheatley, and it's entitled Turning to One Another. There's no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what's possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you've never talked to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everyone who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change your world. Rely on human goodness. Stay together. What a beautiful piece on the importance of meaningful conversations and community.
Thank you for that. That's really nice. Yeah, it's such good guidance.
It absolutely is. And I think that we have had some really meaningful conversations already about this idea of, creating, again, I'll say the Sedona North, we'll say that for now. And
there is a name brewing.
there is a name brewing.
But we need to discuss that further with the community of people to make sure we're all it feels right. Yeah.
Absolutely. But we've had some really great conversations already, and I think that it's just continuing to expand. And there has been a lot of evidence of the divine timing of all of it, as you mentioned with the river flats. We had just met and started to talk about this, and then we were doing a little bit of research on the area and whether in fact there were energetic vortexes or certain areas of concentration in this area. And through that research, we did find some of the Great Lakes ley lines material that you included in the article, and as well the idea of tirthas.
Oh, yes, let's mention that. Absolutely. Such a beautiful word to mean so much, and it really really connects with this area, doesn't it?
It sure does. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I was going to leave you to do that, but certainly I can read straight from the article. So, the tirtha is a Sanskrit word meaning shallow place in a body of water. So when we encountered this, we were like, oh my goodness, because it was exactly what the river flats is all about, right? And then, of course, that the very next day, I drove around the corner and there were the pylons marking that it was starting to be worked on. Just phenomenal synchronicity there. And it also refers to any place, text, or person that is holy. And so Bayfield Archives, they have a lovely presentation about the history of the Indigenous peoples in this area, which is quite interactive. I highly recommend anyone go and look it up if you're interested. But there is a brief history of Indigenous people in Huron County. wonderful place to explore. But certainly this was an area where, I mean, it's still happening today, right? So we know this, where the different peoples would meet for seasonal hunting, fishing, maple sugaring, harvesting, and trade. And so is it possible that Bayfield is a tirtha?
It's
So
a fascinating thought, isn't it? That we've
yeah.
got an area that is would be considered holy,
Mhm.
because of the shallow crossing and what that has meant for the people that have been here for so long. So that
Yeah.
alone is worth exploring more, I think. And yeah, definitely putting that into the equation for this area being so powerful. I mean, I think people come to areas like Bayfield because, for example, Pioneer Park, we know that it's a beautiful place and it feels good. People will say it feels good,
Oh yeah.
but that what is that, right? There's something there. I mean, I know people that have come to Pioneer Park from across the country and wept because they felt home. So
Mm.
there's something quite sacred,
Mhm.
definitely, about the area.
So, Sue, you're a little newer than I am to the community, and just as an sort of touching on the fact that we feel that there's a greater guidance to this project than just a few humans who think it's a great idea. Would you mind, first of all, introducing the type of work you do, but any kind of guidance that you may have received about why, in addition to personally, we feel it's important, why it just seems that this is the time to do this.
Absolutely. Well, I am a spiritual coach and a mentor, and I'm an intuitive and I'm a trans channel. So what that means is that I am able to step aside in my awakened consciousness and allow a group of non-physical teachers speak through me, the United Souls of Heaven and Earth. Done this for many, many, many years,
Mm.
thousands and thousands of hours. And so for about the last, I came to Bayfield. I mean, I've been many times in my life, but I came in 2019 and started doing some work locally for different businesses. And we put on a show in the town hall. And so as I was here more often, my guides started to speak about the area more often to us, and they referred to Bayfield right out of the gate. They referred to Bayfield as the storybook village,
Mm.
which is
Interesting.
fitting, right? So fitting. But what they've talked about over and over and over again is that these shores are very, very important. The energy here is quite important, and they've actually spoken of there being portals of energy here, and that's part of why it is the calling forth now. The time has come for those of us who are on the soulful path to begin to gather. And
Mhm.
the time is right for us to gather because this planet is undergoing a lot of shifts and a lot of changes. And I think everybody can agree with that. We might not all understand or agree why, but
And
from a
just an FY, just to add to the video for a little bit of time, because we're being bombarded by solar flares right now too, which is supposed to be causing havoc to some people who are sensitive. So yeah, and yesterday and today, just in case I'm not recognized, I had soul workshops in Metamorphic Rock Shop. So just interesting how that's all the timing is coming together like that. There's a lot going on, and let's highlight that and show the light on, shed the light on all of this.
all of it, yeah. And it's the time has come for, the planet is undergoing lots of shifts. We're going through societal shifts and institutional shifts and changes, but what's happening from a metaphysical perspective is we're ascending. We're moving into a different vibratory state. Not
Along with the planet itself. right? We're
The planet
all part of the
itself.
planet, and everything is raising up.
Absolutely.
And whether you believe it from different dimensions or from the solar flares, the point is that there is a major shift going on in the vibration. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what we know from the guides is that it's the time for many, many humans has arrived where they are beginning to look more inside of themselves
Mhm, mhm.
to find their way in life, because the looking outside of themselves isn't working anymore. It's not fulfilling. They're feeling soulful drawings to certain things. They're being wanting to leave their jobs. They're wanting to live a more purposeful life. And we're seeing that over and over and over again, aren't we? So
Mhm, mhm.
the guides are saying to us, this is a potent area. They've said it's much like the blue zone. So there's blue zones on the planet. People can look at that. There's certain
Okay.
areas where
Well, there's
uh,
the water project, right, in Bayfield that's called something blue anyway. So
okay, so there's
that has
certain
already been named. Yeah.
parts of the planet where it's a blue zone, and people typically live longer there.
Mm.
The air is cleaner, the food is cleaner. It's just one of those areas, right? And so Bayfield is very much like a blue zone. That's what the guides have
Mhm.
said. So,
Right.
it was their urging that I even come here in the first place. The guides are the one that led me here, and things have evolved over many years. And so here we are. This is, I feel like, the next stage of this beautiful evolution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, to honor time, because it would be lovely if people don't they want to watch this video because it's not too long, sort of thing. I
Absolutely.
just wanted to move to the next topic, and that's that. And we won't discuss this too much today, but this idea of having an energetic launch, and we have discussed this with a few people. Most of you know Jennifer Rayburn, who is also is very familiar with that park because she hosts yoga there. And we talked about having some kind of an energetic or water ceremony in Pioneer Park on some day or evening to be decided, where we will bring the waters of the river to Lady Huron and just send it out there, ripple it out there, this positive intention for the area. So details to follow when that shows itself up on the radar.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I don't know what our next steps are going to be at this point. I think we're going to make sure that all this is accessible, um, so that people can become informed. But I'm thinking that we'll postpone deciding any future meeting dates at this time. But did you want to speak a little bit to what we thought we would do for staying in touch or?
Yeah, I would. So we talked a little bit about some options for staying in touch. We don't want to, we don't want this to be burdensome on anybody. We want this to be a project of inspiration and expansion, as opposed to more heaviness and more
Another
burden.
committee.
Another committee, right? More talking and
Oh,
wasting time. No, this is about, um, you know, I'm a big proponent in inspired action, right? As opposed to trying to push a boulder up a hill. So, with that being said, we talked about other options in terms of keeping things connected. And one of the things we landed on was an Instagram account. Caitlin, you'd mentioned that had really good success with the B2B connections.
yeah, in
And
Bayfield for
so in
sure. Yeah.
Bayfield. So I think that might be a better option than perhaps Facebook, which can become sort of cumbersome. A lot of extraneous information. And we talked about emails, but that also can be cumbersome. Lots of
Mhm.
times things end up in junk mail, and people don't always have time to check their email as it's an added function, right? So
And the beauty of Instagram too is we can just anybody who wants to post a picture even of what's going on down the river flats, or why not, one of these stunning days when we're out looking over the lake, for example. I mean, that sort of thing could be woven in as we define, as the project defines itself. I think some of the posts that we might see show up will start to help make it more visible to us what this is really meant to be, if I've said that correctly.
You said it beautifully.
Which I think we've got to this point where it leads exactly into this tiny little poem that's so beautiful, that we'd like to use for closing, unless there's anything else we need to cover, Sue, before we close up.
I think I think we've covered everything we need to tonight, and we'll just continue to move forward. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So this little poem is written by Siobhan May Mahan, and it came out in a Daytimer. I see here it says Shadow Work, copyright of Emily Cal. So beautiful, brief, mapping a new reality is what it's called. When all the old paths have been concreted over, the way forgotten, when words shapeshift beneath your feet, spelling another reality, when you don't know what to pray for anymore, let alone to whom, then you must abandon the broken compasses, burn the man-made maps, and head for home, following the knowing in your bones, the aching of your heart, the songline of your body.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. It's been a pleasure.
It has, as always, and we will continue to keep everyone posted on this beautiful project as it continues to expand and unfold.
And thank you, everyone, for who tunes into this recording. We look forward to further conversations.
Thank you.